Can we just cut that part out?
No.
Welcome back to the Telosive EV podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I hope neither of you planned on flipping your Cybertruck because Tesla decided you can't do that, and then they changed their mind, so I guess you can.
It's illegal to tip over your Cybertruck?
The fact that they flip-flop that quick on there, I don't trust it, and for those reasons, I'm out.
I did find it
interesting. Mike,
go ahead,
with a forklifter in the Cybertruck.
Because I'm obviously forklift certified, and then a Tesla representative comes and is like, no, you can't do that. It's illegal.
You can't flip.
Has that in like the clipboard with the user agreement, like, nope. I think that's very interesting that they retroactively, I don't know if it's in the writing there in that document. I didn't read that enough and follow it to heart and consume it and all that, but like enough to where like, I think it was you, Drew, that sent me the whole thing of like, are you still gonna get it offline or whatever, separately, in our own personal chat? And I'm like, I don't remember this whole extra paragraph or wording surrounding you cannot resell it, because that was a whole thing. I think with Nick was like he wanted to sell all his Cybertrucks or like
I asked Nick about it too.
Yeah,
and Nick, for the record, was very vocal from the beginning in saying that they cannot do that. They have no legal grounds to sell you a vehicle and say that you are not allowed to resell it, which he felt very confident that they wouldn't be able to do that. I was reading a lot of messages on Twitter claiming that they legally can, or like Ford has done it. In the past, they showed examples of other automakers enforcing that rule. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I don't know, but then they changed the wording. So,
well, they just got rid of it. Who knows if it's going to come back?
Flip it away.
So Nick was right. That's weird.
No, I don't even know if he was right. All it means is that Tesla gave up on trying to prevent people from reselling, which, I mean, business-wise, we can argue on whether or not it's a good idea. I'm just more interested in how does this affect the price guesstimator, because to me,
now for your favorite weekly segment, how much is the Cybertruck going to cost?
We're going to keep doing that well after deliveries have begun. And
I mean, we still can. You can keep on doing weekly things of like, is it going to change this week? How much is it going to go up?
First time I saw that order agreement, I was like, it's a good sign for the price. If the company is trying to prevent flipping, that implies that they think the first people taking delivery are going to have an incredibly good deal. Mm-hmm. So good, in fact, that they will feel compelled to resell it because it'll be in low supply, high demand. So not removing that clause to me is like the company saying, screw it, you could flip it, that's fine. Like, scalpers, do your thing, have fun, be safe.
Where the Swifties at? We got something for you guys to turn on and scalp.
Use buyer protection, all that.
I'm not gonna do it again. No, I'm not doing it.
That's all the bait.
Yeah.
I will say though, in relation to that, the frequency of Cybertrucks has increased recently. It seems like Tesla is churning them out a little bit more and more every day, to where there's more and more.
How many have you seen now, Mike?
What was funny is as I was editing the EV podcast. By the way, thanks everyone for being patient with waiting for the EV podcast. I think as of recording this episode, it just came out yesterday. Was it today? It was today. To be fair, we are recording early. But
we posted late and we're recording super early, so
right.
But yeah, I was in the bay
know our lives.
When you saw it.
Don't judge our schedules. You don't know what we're doing. You leave us alone.
You can listen to the tech podcast and the reasons why I was late. But Yes. While I was editing the podcast, there was one day where I went down, or basically, we were going to the beach that day. And to get to the beach, you have to pass through Los Gatos, which has a supercharger. And we're in the supercharging lot.
I'm just going to put Mike's address as the B-roll.
Oh, it's all right there.
His location.
Just dox the heck out of me.
Longitude.
He lives in the ghetto, he said.
Oh, obviously.
IP address.
As I was sitting
I was not
there,
far from Mike. I was so close to you at that time.
right. I think I even called you, Drew, because what happened
did.
was the wife and I were getting out of the car. We looked, and there's this X that was stopped in the middle of like I guess it's like a through drive, but also a parking lot per se. And the X just stopped. And we're like, why is it stopped? And then my wife gasped. I'm like, why are you gasping? It's just a Model X that's stopped in the middle. And then I see the giant metal wedge on wheels driving through, and I go to the supercharger and park. I'm like, oh, and that's when I grabbed out my phone, took a video and all that. And yeah, so I've seen not just 2, I've seen actually 3 Cybertrucks
That
in
gave
person
me a giant metal
since I've been back.
wedgie.
Oh my, wedgie. Okay then.
I don't know. I just pictured that video of the guy that does a backflip onto the fence.
Oh my goodness. Anyways,
It's a metal
I did get to talk with the
Wow.
driver. It sounds
What?
like, from what I gathered from him, because my wife and I
What was his
kinda-
name?
I don't
It was
have his
Mike,
name.
wasn't
I
it?
didn't ask his name. You could call him Mike.
That's
Why
weird
not?
if you
Let's
don't
just
ask
add
for it.
another Mike.
That's-
But he
that's
is
awkward.
a engineer for
He's a
Tesla,
Cyber
and
He's a cyber Mike.
what I took, because I'm not gonna straight up and ask him like, what's the range of this thing. What I did ask him was, do you like it? And his answer to that is, I'm not even a truck guy, and this thing is really fun. And I asked, like, is this a
Interesting.
vehicle that just Tesla gave to you to test out or something like that? He's like, yeah, I've driven around everywhere, and it's pretty good. I'm like, okay.
I don't even work
what's
there.
your? I know. I'm like, well, my last question
I
to
stole
him.
this 15 minutes ago.
I wouldn't be surprised, but
took this
my
off
last
of a
question
man's
was, what's
body.
your? My last question was, what's your favorite thing about this? And he said, with it sounded like
The
with
range.
sincere, honest, yes, that is it. He's like, my favorite
What?
thing is being able to
I was
drive
joking.
out, do some off-roading, and come back and not have to charge. Which
And
has
you
me
didn't ask him
very...
what the range is, Mike? Oh my god.
I told you at the very beginning of this whole block that I'm not going to ask him the obvious question, because the obvious question is going to
Why
be,
not?
I can't tell you
doesn't-
that.
He's talking to you. You might as well.
He doesn't watch this.
He doesn't know who we are.
It
doesn't
doesn't
know.
matter. It doesn't matter. He gets so many people approaching him because he's driving a giant billboard around that's basically saying, hey, ask me questions, even though I'm not supposed to answer
Yeah,
them.
he was one of the guys. He took that off of the employee. He killed the guy. He was like, "This is mine now."
No, I got a question. There's a roundabout way. I'm so jealous, Mike, basically, is what I'm trying to
I
say.
called you and you didn't
I-
answer, so I'm like, okay, well, that's fine.
I was
You
driving. It would have been
stupid-
dangerous.
To answer the phone call button on the bottom right of the screen of your silly little white...
I don't have
Sedan?
that set up. It wasn't doing that.
You don't have
It
that
doesn't
set
show up on the Tesla screen. No. Also, I was in an area
Where
where
the hell
connection
was my
very
phone call,
spotty.
Mike? Mother.
How am I supposed to clue you in? I sent the video/photo to you afterward.
All of a sudden.
Next time you see one, you need to call Randy immediately.
All right, I'll
Doesn't
do that.
matter what time of day it is. But okay, here's what you do. Because you're in Cybertruck land right now,
Apparently so.
which I was all weekend looking for them, and I couldn't find a single one. Meanwhile, Mike finds 3. When you meet one of these people, you very slowly pull a gun. No, I don't condone that. You very slowly ask him what the watt hours per mile on average are like.
He's not
And
going to
then
answer
you
that.
ask for the size of the battery pack.
It's not going to.
So you didn't
It's not
you
going to answer.
didn't ask
this.
for the range. You just ask for the average watt hours per mile and the size of the how
You
many
asked him
kilowatt
the
hours is in
formula
there.
for the range.
Yeah. And then he can say, and they go, hey, Cyber Mike, did you give the range to somebody? No, I didn't. I did not say, here is the range.
I don't think so. I think there's been many people who have
Per
attempted
se.
those questions and have gotten the equivalent of no. But at least the way that I phrased them, I think, was good enough because I wasn't directly asking what are the numbers. It was mainly just, what's your experience been? And honestly, his answers were all of the right things that both me and my wife were looking for from someone who's had experience with this revolutionary design.
Sell you on it. You took the bait.
I guess that's one last thing. Thanks for reminding me, Randy. That's one thing that I didn't expect him following up that question with, which was he asked me, when did you order? And I'm like, the night of, like an hour or two after the event. And he's like, oh, so you have an early VIN. Good. Which confuses the heck out of me. Because
I don't think he
I don't know if he knows or not, or if he has the experience as someone who gets first hands with the vehicle of what really happens with most customers, or at least I'm not too sure, because it it made me question, wait, is this the whole reassurance that early orders / pre-orders
smoking crack,
equal
man, I tell you.
early delivery or like first delivery, or does it mean, I don't know. So I'm still, it put a little crack in the foundation of my idea of how Tesla gives, or I guess delivers these vehicles. But I'm still not yet convinced of the fact that, like, just because you were early doesn't mean you get your vehicle early. I
don't think so.
Lucky enough to get mine early, but that wasn't because I was a first day, well, I was a first day order, but it's because I called Tesla at the right time.
And you're close to where they are made.
Exactly. I think you're a fantastic example, Drew, where you ordered at the beginning of the year and you didn't get until the end. And that's mainly just because of your location in California.
It's just, there was a long wait at that time too, but for everybody, even if you were right next to the factory, there was a wait. But yeah, I
don't think so.
I've heard people say that the people that have been spotted driving the Cybertruck around said that there was some kind of internal company raffle on just who gets to test them. I don't think anyone's keeping these yet, but it was like if they pulled your name, you would get to test it, drive it around. Interesting that he showed up to a urban supercharger.
He says he's been there multiple times. So, or not, he didn't say that, but he implied it by basically being in the area. I guess is what I'm trying to get.
Why did he choose that one?
Why did he choose that one, right? Like, because we see, well, we kind of, I guess. He wasn't there too. That was another thing. Because we hung out a little bit longer because we're trying to also decide on where to get food when we're there. And he was there basically the same duration as any other Tesla, which either makes me think, one, or A, or whatever, that his next destination's not too far, B, or two, the next supercharger he's going to is going to be enough distance for the time that he charged at the supercharger, or C, or three, he lives nearby or something like that. I don't know.
Okay, I think we've all narrowed down what we need to do here. So we're going to camp out at this supercharger and wait. And
I'm going to jump them.
And then we're going to stand in front of the truck after it's parked. We just hold up a big sign that says, what's the watt hours per mile?
It's not going to answer. He was very nice the whole entire experience. It was a pleasure talking with him.
Oh, this is the door.
Did you tell him that you are on a podcast?
Why that wouldn't come up in the conversation naturally, so no. Do you want me to try to get him on the podcast?
No, I was actually going to say it'd be bad if you mentioned that you're running a mildly unsuccessful EV podcast, because then he'd want to tell you less.
The host of this podcast.
Like, oh, no, you know MKBHD? Yeah, we're nothing like him.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeez. It was cool seeing it, though, because we also had the truck there.
I'm sure it was, Mike.
Okay, I guess what I'm getting at is nice comparison to compare the Cybertruck to the Ram. I could have taken the Ram and parked it right next to it at one point, but I decided not to. It would have been nice to get that.
Did you touch it?
I'm not going to touch the vehicle, no. We were being
Mike.
very respectful. And what are you talking?
You are
You're
such
making
a
it seem-
you're such a blue ball freaking buzzkill.
Says the man wearing a blue shirt.
Boner killer over here. Didn't touch it, didn't ask a question, didn't nothing.
What are you talking about? I asked him like 3 questions and had a nice conversation with the guy.
So
and I got to
he
check.
basically told you that it has a 500-mile range, is what I've gathered.
That's kind of what I inferred basically from our discussion, is that it's got a decent amount of range. Didn't give me any specific numbers, but he said that he's able to drive out to a location far away, do some fun stuff with the truck, and then drive back with no problem.
Did he have anything in the bed of his truck?
I didn't actually get to look at the vault. The closest I got, I think, was the quarter panel where the NAX plug was going into it.
Yeah.
And, well, yeah. To
You
be
can
fair,
stand on the vault cover, you know.
I don't think you can't just go to someone's car randomly and just stand on their vault cover without permission,
Why not?
because that's
Try
very
it, see
rude.
what happens.
Do you remember the riots in 2020?
Why do you take it there all of a sudden? I'm trying
As he zooms in.
to...
I think you're just jealous, Drew.
I saw 2 politicians on top of the vault cover,
In Fremont.
which impressed me.
Yeah, but let me tell you.
I've got huge feet, and both of them fit
And
on
there's
the
no problems
Cybertruck.
there.
A Drew Trump impression. Wow.
But you couldn't tell because I weigh so little. I'm so light. You wouldn't know.
I could get on the Rivian tonneau cover, believe me.
Believe me.
I guess those finally started
should
shipping
be a-
as well.
That would be a fun experiment. What bed covers can you stand on? Just a video, all the different bed covers. Cybertruck, wow, this is pretty strong. And then just park next to a Rivian and you jump on it and then you fall through it like Andy in The Office. Parkour! It just goes straight through it. Doesn't stop you for a minute.
Ugh.
Well, I hope that I see a Cybertruck before I die.
Come hang out with me more, Drew. You're gonna see one
I
before
would
you
like to.
die. Just come.
I think I just need to job share. I just need to hang out with Mike. I'm just gonna cuff my wrist to his wrist, and then I'll be stuck with him, and then I'll have a higher likelihood.
It's gonna make
of
things
spotting
very complicated when going to work. I think I might just cuff you to the supercharger in Los Gatos.
You know, I never thought I was
Just
going to
take
say
the
something out
cable out.
loud, but I think I should go. I think I should go. I think I should go see my mother-in-law.
What are you talking about? She's a wonderful woman. I got to enjoy my
Oh my
time
God,
with her when
Mike.
we were
Oh
at your
my
place in
God, Mike.
Virginia.
Mike. Oh my God.
We had very lovely conversations.
Oh my God. The things I want to say off the record.
Well, you can save it for later. But I guess since
Yeah,
we're still
I,
talking about pickups and we're in this vein of pickups, did you guys catch the Lucid pickup leak online?
I did. With one hand, I caught it. And I gotta say, it looked like a GPT designed pickup truck.
It
was
looked like if you asked AI to render something,
Mm-hmm.
it looks like an
That's
NFT.
it. That's the Lucid pickup NFT
Yeah.
going on sale.
It was unexpected
looked
to me.
So, yeah, it's not the direction I would expect their company to go in. That's for sure. Being all luxury focused,
Wrong.
luxury and pickup trucks tend not to go together. All
It
that
feels
much,
very
so-
Lincoln Blackwood-esque, per se, to me. Like something that...
as in bad.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm saying unexpected in the way that, like, you wouldn't expect a pickup truck from Lincoln because Ford's already killing it with the pickup trucks. Lincoln just has to be the luxury offshoot of them. But no, the Blackwood exists, so it feels like, all right, well, now we've got the Lucid, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, the pickup. What would it even be?
They have the air, the
Drew
gravity,
goes,
and the What would you call the truck?
Uh,
Atmosphere?
the boulder.
The boulder, yeah.
So it has to be like something.
Oh, I've got
natural.
it. No, I figured it out. So you've got air, and then you got gravity, and the pickup truck they would call the bull crap, because that's what it looked like.
Really? I thought it was a very interesting design.
You just need
I guess
Jeff Goldblum.
Did it?
That's a big pile.
Tell me exactly what interests you about it.
I guess the two different looks that they had going on was intriguing to me.
No.
Of one that's a little bit more air inspired, while the other one's more offshoot of air and more like Lucid
Air
brand
adjacent?
inspired.
Yeah, it's called gas.
Yes.
Air adjacent is gas.
That's it. They call it the gas. I don't see a second design. I saw it next to a gravity mock-up.
Well, trying to look at it, but of course Starlink is having a fun
I'll
time.
I'll
But
send it to... I should write this down anyway.
is it a gravity? I guess that's happening, right? In so not.
That's a good way to phrase it. I guess that's happening. Maybe we shouldn't talk too much about it because it might be unveiled by the time this podcast gets...
That's happening.
Oh, I didn't see the full photo of this. Okay, so it's a gravity mock-up next to the pickup mock-up. I thought it was two different pickup mock-ups or prototypes, but okay. Huh.
Let's just say I'm glad that this was not announced.
The pickup.
It's a clay model that appears to be near some kind of dumpster, which says something about the design.
It's not a dumpster. It's,
What's that
it's a-
big shipping container?
it's a shipping
Looks
container.
like there was a fire next to it. It was a...
There doesn't seem to be any sign of intelligent life near
Why are
this.
you judging it based on its surroundings? They have to hide it somewhere. I guess hiding it inside the building would probably be
Well,
smarter.
putting
but
it next
then
to
you've got
trash
employees.
is very camouflaged. It's so good.
Well, I'll put it this way. I had a small off-the-record conversation with Jason Hill after the interview this week.
Yeah, you lucky
And-
duck. You didn't tell us until you just put it out there. Got to talk with the Aptera chief of design.
I don't know about anybody's
You got-
Cybertruck's experience. I don't know anything about an Aptera experience. I'm just sitting. I'm over here.
You own
just-
2 Teslas.
Yeah, come
That's
on,
your
man.
luck.
So I'm better than
He's
both
like,
of
not
you. Is
enough.
what I'm hearing you say. Is that
That's correct.
Sure.
I'm the Mark Cuban to the other sharks. I don't need you people.
Yeah. Not that it's a
I wanna-
competition, but
I
if
wanna
it was,
be
you'd
in.
win.
I want to be in it.
Well, the good news is I can attest that Jason has been fairly active in the Twitter DMs,
That's cool.
and I'm fairly confident I can get him to come on for like a full episode. I
That'd
think
be
that
fun.
should be possible. So
I'd love
I'll
to pick
shut
his
up,
brain.
and then you guys can just pick his brain. Y'all can ask him questions, and I'll just sit back and
Kind
shut
of worried
up.
about
But
Randy asking
the-
questions, but okay.
Michael, please. I can crank the charm up to 11 when I need to.
Oh, I believe that.
especially for a designer, a professional designer.
Especially for a designer, I know how to. I know
You can
how
just
to.
ask him about the desert house again. But
Basically,
you're
the off-the-record conversation was about. I asked him if he felt validated or vindicated by the kind of small robotaxi render we saw in the Elon biography.
Mhm.
And I was like, that came out and it kind of looked like a 3-wheeler. It had kind of Aptera vibes going. Did you feel like you played a hand in a way with that vehicle? I was like, did you? And he basically said no, but he felt confident that if that's the design and the render that they let Walter Isaacson publish, then it's probably because they're not going to use it.
Interesting.
So that's potentially how I feel with the whole Lucid pickup truck thing. It's like if it's outside somewhere they're not covering up very carefully. I mean, this doesn't even look like someone snapped a photo from their phone. This looks like a pretty high up. I don't know. Maybe a drone flew by. Seems kind of high off the ground for just someone pulling out their phone real quick.
Well, so true. There's a difference between Tesla supplying both a model slash image to Walter Isaacson of a robotaxi prototype or whatever it's going to be, versus some Joe Schmo getting a leaked photo of the Gravity and whatever the Lucid pickup's going to be called behind a shipping container. It's basically, this is the equivalent, in my opinion, of what we got last year or the year before with the Air and the Gravity over in the Santa Cruz Mountains in the Bay, where it wasn't supposed to be photographed, but oops, it's been leaked.
It was Corey, wasn't it?
You think
I
this
think
is
Corey
Corey's doing?
leaked this.
Okay. For those who don't know Corey Steuben from Sandy Monroe, or the Monroe and
Formerly
Associates.
Monroe Live, yeah. Now full-time Lucid employee, who I give all the credit for them adopting Nax to. That was purely Corey's decision, I think. But
It correlates with Corey.
yeah, exactly. Do you think Lucid should make a pickup truck?
I think Lucid should get to market first. You know.
Sorry.
Wow.
I like the Wow. I like the acknowledgement that they haven't delivered.
That's amazing. Honestly, why not at this point? Because it seems like, in my opinion, it's Lucid
I love how
versus.
upbeat you are, Mike. I love it. You're just like, oh, they should go for it. Go for it.
Why not? Why not? I mean, like, what do they have to lose at this point?
You're right.
Has there been a product Mike doesn't think should exist at any point?
No, that's why I need Mike in my life. He bounces all the negativity in my head.
Trying to think,
Randy's
what
like,
things
who
have I
cares?
contested in the past?
You
No,
haven't.
I was very critical about the Sapphire. I thought that the Sapphire
You
was
were.
not needed.
You were.
But to be
I
fair,
remember.
that's just another form of the Lucid Air, and I'm totally for the Lucid Air being a product. I just felt like they've not butchered it to hell, but basically just they've let it stew a little bit too long. They need to either do something with spices on it that make it something better that isn't the Sapphire, or move on to the next dish in this 3-course meal, which
Oh
is
my.
the Gravity.
Oh
And then apparently the third
A1.
course is the pickup.
B2, 3C. Yeah.
Yes.
The truck, I'll be honest, looking at it from an efficiency standpoint, I don't think it looks that efficient aerodynamically. It looks fairly like standard traditional pickup truck shape, which
It reminds me of a Rivian, honestly.
It reminds me of a Honda.
But maybe it's just the yellow. The yellow kind of triggers my Compass Yellow want. Maybe that's why I'm a little bit more positive about it. Because Compass Yellow is no longer a color that Rivian supports.
Well,
Do you think Lucid might just tease or want to do a pickup for the sake of just knowing that the electric pickup truck space is very competitive and pretty much everybody can release one and find buyers for it? It seems like no.
no.
What is it, Randy?
Explain yourself,
Why are
Randy.
they doing
I
a
got a
pickup?
different opinion on this.
Okay. First of all, just to make sure I restate that question again, Drew. I want to make sure I'm not misunderstanding you.
All right.
No, I'm asking you. Restate that. Restate the question for me.
Oh. Sorry.
Do you think Lucid is getting into or should do this because it's a hot commodity? Everyone's jumping in on it. Is that the form of your question?
It's like they want, is Lucid getting in on this so that they can have something to compare the Cybertruck to, basically?
Okay.
They're cashing in on the Cybertruck hype.
Lucid does not. It goes like there's no luxury trucks, and if they make a non-luxury truck, then it doesn't go with their branding. It's like Apple making a cheap
A truck.
a truck. It's like Apple making a.
Never gonna make one. Unless it's a render.
It's
It's like Apple making a camera.
or releasing the next gen CarPlay. It's not gonna happen. There's just some things.
That thing's disappeared.
How about
You're
that?
right.
It's like Apple making an XLR microphone.
Wow. Yeah,
That's
like,
a good comparison.
yeah. You don't it's not Lucid's. It's not their piece of the pie. That's not. They're not.
Really? I will contest that just because in this photo that we're looking at, the thing next to it is the reason why it makes sense, in my opinion. They're
It's a
making
shared
it.
The blue
platform, you
power?
They're
think?
making
Is
an
that
SUV on a new platform. All you have to do is either put on a different body or chassis, or just carve out the back and make it a bed, and voila!
So it's Rivian style
It's a
R1S,
Rivian.
R1T.
It's literally the Rivian approach. Here's an
It's the
SUV.
Gravity and the Gravi S.
Nice.
What?
I love it.
But
That
that's
was great.
reverse. The Gravity is the
Your guys'
SUV.
reaction to that was priceless.
I love it. That
so
was
beautiful.
great. The gravity.
That was
I love
terrible.
it. That's amazing.
I disagree. That was
No, that's great.
terrible joke.
Disagree.
The dad.
I disagree with you on both things, Randy. But
Mike, you
I think
are,
the truck-
you are the yin to my
Interesting.
yang.
I think this is a nice clue into what's being announced and what we're gonna miss, of course, because we're recording early. I think it.
Maybe
the
I should
Gravity
post
gets the
this
vents.
before the announcement. The 17th, I think. Is when
Good
they
luck.
announce it.
Is it the 17th? I think.
That's
it is?
Friday.
I thought it was. Maybe
Don't
so.
question my logic.
But I guess what I'm getting at is that this pickup makes sense as a bumper for the end, for the end of the
bumper.
presentation. Yes, for the end of the presentation of the Gravity, it makes sense to tease
I was
this.
wrong. It's the 16th.
Oh,
So okay, in 2 days or whatever. You got 2 days,
All right.
Drew. Good luck. I think it makes
I have
total sense,
internet
and
here.
also with companies like Fisker who are also trying to enter the EV pickup truck world with the Alaska,
Oh, Fisker. Yeah.
right? They exist too.
I saw one in the wild.
I don't believe you.
God. Well, you'll really believe me when you find out I didn't get a picture of it, but it was at Stinson
That's
Beach.
believable.
It was at the ocean, appropriately.
Oh,
the
hey.
Fisker Ocean was. That's part of the contract.
That's
they
where you
have
find
to be
them.
within.
Of course you saw one because
Yeah.
it was near its natural habitat.
sounds like you guys are
the ocean.
collecting Pokemon
Yeah, and
right
it-
now. You have to go to this region to see them.
You
I
do.
just saw the badge and I was like, "That's not a normal
Randy,
badge." And then
This
I looked,
is the situation. Hold on, Drew. This is that situation. If you want to see electric cars like the Cybertruck, you go to the region that they live in. That is the Bay Area. That's where
You
you'll
would
see the
think
most
it
of
was
them.
Texas. Yeah, I would have thought Texas.
Yeah, I was gonna
No,
say
no.
they're not really made in California, but there's a lot of them in California.
But
for
the
some
testing grounds is in California and I guess all over the world. But like the main area where they're throwing them at engineers and where they can repair them is the Bay Area. Anyways, sorry, Drew. You saw the ocean.
I just saw the Fisker
next to the
Ocean.
ocean.
I was super whelmed, and then I saw a Nissan Aria at IKEA. I got a video of that one because I parked next to it. It's not that interesting, but there it is. And I would have traded both of those experiences and my kidney for a Cybertruck sighting and interrogation of the test
I offered
driver.
them to take my son, but they were like, "We don't do that anymore." I was like, "It's a
We don't
fair
do that
trade."
exchange
method.
program.
It's just a little baby icon in the.
We don't accept
Yeah,
those referral points.
And I was like, "Wait, don't, but who's gonna go mine all your cobalt? You know, like I got the hands on deck. Who's gonna go mine it? You know,
I don't think Jason's ever going to join the podcast at this point.
no, Jet.
No, he probably shouldn't. But I should be checking out the Gamma prototype by the end of
What?
the month. Hopefully.
That's exciting.
So I'm excited.
Let's correlate that with around the time Jason comes on the podcast and be like, "How? Why? When? Where? What? Winneth?"
Yeah.
Aptera.
I would like to see an Aptera style truck. I think that would be a lot more innovative and original than what the Gravi S design.
Just call it gravitas at this point. Just
It does not look. Look at the slope line of the windshield. It's way too stark compared. Look at the Gravity windshield. It's like this graceful little magic mouse. It's like, but on the pickup truck, it's like, and then it goes up and flat into the windshield. Windshield goes and goes back again, and then you have the big drop off behind the cab, wide open bed. The Cybertruck looks more aerodynamic than this thing.
I think you're putting too much prejudgment on this thing, especially since it's not something that Lucid has ever acknowledged or even hinted at doing.
I don't think you're judging it enough, to be honest. I think
Okay.
you need to be you need to be harder as an engineer on these standards.
Questioning my engineering expertise. That's fine, Mr. YouTuber. Though I guess you're the one who gets to play with the Aptera, so I have nothing to say there. But
You got
I
to
guess
play with it already. I'm just playing catch up.
I got to sit in it. You get
sit
to
in
actually
it.
drive it. I'll beg on
Yeah,
my
that's
hands and knees to do
totally
that. That sounds
different.
fun.
And
I'll
I
just
saw
follow
a
you and you
Nissan
won't know.
Leaf yesterday.
Oh, that's exciting.
That's brilliant. Okay, how much would the Lucid pickup truck cost? Price guess. Cheaper, more
120.
expensive than a Cybertruck. 120? But don't you think they might want someone to buy it?
Sorry, 130 then.
Uh,
Mike's going.
Yeah.
lower
I think
than
it'll land
yours.
around there.
My first instinct
It's
was
a
going to be
luxury pickup.
150.
Oh, okay.
oh my god.
Yeah.
Guys,
What do you think,
have
Drew?
you seen this company?
You think it's going to
I
be
thought
90?
these would be. I thought both of these vehicles would be their attempt to qualify for at least one federal tax credit.
Yeah, in like 5 years, when they finally make
Oh,
the
5 years.
gravity pure.
Gravity pure. I love all these terminologies they've come up with.
I'm going to follow them. If they set them out, I'll follow their terminologies, just like Apple has their terminologies on things that are just USB-C plug.
Yeah.
You okay? I think... I think this thing has a market. Even though it is kind of
Who?
ridiculous to think that Lucid could be making a pickup truck. I think it makes sense. Especially with the way that they've been holding out on making products, besides, I guess, announcing every single different color of the rainbow Lucid Air. Maybe that's where all that... I guess what I'm trying to get is it's better
Rose
than
gold.
putting out all these different product ideas, like with what Canoe's doing with another pickup, or maybe it's the same pickup, but it's now just the official pickup. Anyways, what I'm getting is that they're not throwing every single product idea that they have in their design sector and giving it to the public and being like, yeah, we promise we'll make this. It's better, at least in my opinion, that Lucid hasn't said anything about this pickup, because it means that they're actually thinking about it and trying to get it right versus just, here's an idea. What do you guys think?
Well, how about, Randy, can I ask you this? Should Lucid make vehicles? No. I'll rephrase that. Do
You didn't even let him answer. Should Lucid make vehicles? No. Okay.
What- like, these are two different unveiling techniques. I'm curious which you think is more effective. Do you think it's better to kind of, because Aptera is doing this too. They've teased multiple times that they have mock-ups and ideas and concepts for future models that could have more seats, more functionality, more wheels. Yeah, not everyone gets to say that, but Aptera does.
More wheels.
Should we make one with more wheels? I don't know if Tesla's debating that, but
Tesla already
like,
did or the Semi. It has more wheels.
oh yeah, Aptera's like keeping everything internal. They're like, we don't need to talk about that. Let's not unveil that. Let's just focus on the main product, the most efficient one. That's what our focus will be on, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We just want to get the three-wheeler on the market first, and then we can talk about other models. Whereas Canoo is almost the exact opposite. They're like, hey, we came up with a different version of the pickup truck that we're not making, and they unveil every different design you can think of. Here's a 4-door, here's a 2-door, here's the delivery vehicle, here's the multi-purpose vehicle, and they've got all these iterations upon iterations.
Don't forget the sedan.
Oh, God.
That never got
Yeah.
announced, but did get announced.
They kind of let it slip. They pulled a Google Pixel. They were like, oops, there it is, I guess.
Anyways,
But what do you guys think? I'll start with Randy. Do you think keeping it internal or just letting everything out makes more sense for a startup company trying to secure investors.
If we're talking about Lucid, who already they already opened their mouth. We're the premium, and we know people care about the range, not how fast it charges. Da 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 da. And then they just go backtrack everything. You know what's funny, real quick? Hang on. I know this is not even your question, but Riley said in the video, in the last podcast video, he's like, "Where are all the Lucid, defenders, commenters now? Where are they?" And I was like, "Yeah, real quiet now, aren't they? Almost like
They lost their
old
internet
man
connection because they
Randy
didn't
here."
pay the bill.
So
You scared them away.
it got really quiet around this corner of the room, didn't it? Um, so what Lucid should do is probably not the same as what I think early startups trying to secure funding should do. Uh, Early startups should be more loose-lipped because you need to get attention. You need to draw attention somehow. I do believe that you have to, especially trying to get early. If you're trying to get funding, you need to sell the vision, and you're not first to market, so now you need to sell something to differentiate. Even if it's just another render of something, you need to get the people who are going to give you money to buy in to your vision. Uh, Lucid needs to shut up. So, like
Jeez.
Lucid has
Not Corey, just Lucid.
they have a lot of lashes at them right now because they were so I don't really feel like going to Max because our customers care more about range. And like they walking around. My stance has not changed about Lucid and why they annoy the hell out of me. They walk around like they have first mover advantage, and they don't. They don't get to dictate Jack. They don't
They
get
have
to
last mover
They don't.
disadvantage.
They don't facilitate any type of movement or ripple or anything in this market. They are lucky to even have any type of attention drawn to them right now. And every time I have to talk about them, I'm giving them more attention than I think they deserve because they have not.
Wow.
They need to be humble. They need to humble themselves. They need some humility in that structure in that company because everything they've done has been a colossal failure, in my opinion. It really has. They have nothing to show for all these things, and they tout premium quality built and luxury this and that, and they walk around equivalent. They walk around like their gas don't stink. So people
Well,
with
they're
that
an
type of
EV
it,
company.
yeah. I'm not talking about that gas. Yeah, they're not the I don't know. This whole demeanor, I put them like one tick above Nicola, really. That's where I would place them
Wow.
in my order, in my hierarchy of importance and things that I give attention to or even think about. They're maybe one, two tops if I'm in a good mood, notches above Nicola. But even then, I don't know. I don't even think about those guys. But what they need to do is find a way. I mean, I think it doesn't matter because if they're going to keep getting, funding from the Saudis, then there you go. Then there's your endless pit of money that's going to help you, however however need be. But
Do you think maybe this is the effect of CEOs per se? Because it seems like you're still feeling a little bit of that scar tissue from Trevor Milton and Nicola. And maybe this is just the same scenario with kind of like how we've been watching uh, Elon Musk be a little bit more out of the loop with what Tesla's doing. That maybe that's how Peter Rawlinson is with Lucid, where he's wanting something to be the way that he wants it, and the company's trying to fight back as much as it can, but still following him a little bit because it's still under his leadership. But they're trying to meet somewhere in the middle of their path forward.
Everybody wants to be like this. They, they want history to remember them kindly and be a revolutionary, an innovator, a Steve Jobs. So everybody wants that. It's all pride, it's all ego, it's all narcissistic tendencies, and so all these CEOs, Elon included to a certain caliber, people care more about the image of what they actually are than what they're actually offering or putting out now. The difference is Elon actually did something. He earned his his clout.
Big ego.
Yeah, he did. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that he says, but it doesn't matter. He's a guy who puts his money where his mouth is, and he's Tesla speaks for itself, and all these people in this industry are just trying to, how can we claw at Tesla's market share? That's all they think about, because they don't have first mover advantage. So Lucid needs to just like, I would just restructure the whole company. In honestly, the whole, I just don't agree with its
Yeah,
premise
me
at all.
too.
So with that being said, that's for Lucid, but other EVs or other startups as a whole, I think they need to be more open and show all their ideas and all their renders and all their concepts and all their, they need to show their, you need to sell your vision to get investors on board. You have to. You can't be like, well, that's a story for another day. No, you don't get to say that. You don't have those rights yet to do that. You
Let me
got,
pose this to you then, Randy. Polestar, what's your position on them?
I
Because
like,
they've kind of followed this ethos that you want as well. They threw out the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6, and even the 6
I
was
like Polestar personally.
the O2 concept. And now they're finally, I think right now in LA, showing off the
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, and 6 there, where the 3 and 4 are a little bit more refined in what they're actually going to be for the consumer, where 5 and 6 are still pending.
Yeah, maybe I like Polestar because it's a little bit cleaner, it's a little bit more linear, and there's an easier timeline to follow that. Maybe that's why I like them a little bit more. I I I like Polestar as its own thing. I like Polestar in the sense I give them the same accolades as I would give like Aptera. I like
Hmm.
how they're in their own little thing, and they just, now the marketing with the Super Bowl thing, no talks about getting the like, okay, they're taking jabs at Tesla and Elon, and that's hee hee ha ha. I don't really care for the marketing portion of it, but for all things considered, I like them because it's like it's stripped down. It's bare bones on like pricing makes sense for what it's trying to do. Even though I don't like, the range is terrible, but range be damned,
Yeah, I
Uh,
think their Polestar 4 has like a 100 kilowatt hour battery to get the
there you
car
go.
to go 300 miles.
There you go. CarPlay, they were the ones who saying they're gonna try to adopt this whole integration with CarPlay. So that means when I look for something with CarPlay, I'm not necessarily looking for something like with CarPlay directly. I'm looking for how seamless is the integration going to be with your other tech that's going to be on your body, your person the whole time. And the phone is an important one. I like how Tesla, is so locked into their own grid that they don't really need to integrate really much with your phone. As Drew was talking about, he doesn't even get the phone call to his car, and he hasn't synced up so they're two separate things. But in me, I get the phone calls, I get the chimes, I get the text messages, like I have my Bluetooth, I got it all like integrated as much as possible. Shoot, I was trying to get the my garage to pair with it so it knew how to auto open, only to find out that was an additional
Mm-hmm.
cost later. I was like, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
But like Tesla, with their infrastructure is so embedded because they've had so much more time to work on it. Tesla gets the pass. Maybe even, hypocritically on my part, I would give them the pass on that. But everybody else, like integration to your smartphone, I think is essential. Not just Apple, but Google and Samsung, like all things that can communicate with the car seamlessly, and a good indicator is Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Well, let me throw it back around to the original question.
yeah,
You said that these startups need to be throwing out all their ideas. does that still apply to Tesla then, especially in 2017, where they threw out ideas of a semi truck, a Roadster 2.0? Was that 2017? Yeah. And
Yeah.
even a pickup as well, that they had
Yeah.
ideas of a pickup, which was based off of their semi design, kind of in a way. Um, does that still make sense, even for these companies like Polestar or Lucid or Aptera, to throw these ideas out that are kind of half baked designs that we don't even know if engineering wise are feasible to get the specs that the public wants?
As long as everybody understands this is a fundraiser. They're campaigning to get funds, you know. This is a more intricate version of Kickstarter or Indiegogo, then yeah, do what you got to do, you know. Tesla now, it wouldn't make sense to do all that stuff because they're so much more established now. It's about preserving their market share. It's about enriching what you already have and keeping the customer base that you have for the most part. There are some people who will drift and go try other cars because that's just what they will do. But for the most part, somebody you get into this ecosystem with Tesla, you're I would treat that as like, okay, now what do we do to make it better? Well, we'll make supercharging cheaper than if it were to if you were a third party using our infrastructure. You know, good referral programs all around that are fair. That's another one. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I would lean into referral programs like a mug. I would I would commit and deliver the freaking Roadster first and foremost. Like enough with that. Like let's these guys gave a quarter mil or let starting like give these guys their freaking car or
Mm-hmm.
offer them a seat, offer them at least a seat at the board table at this point and let them be in the room when decisions are something. They gave the company free money with no interest at this point. Give them something. But for Tesla to in the future be like, hey, we got this, that. You can insinuate it on earnings calls and stuff like that, but at this point, they're too big, they're too established. They're not in survival mode anymore. They're past that point. They've made it through that part. They got over the hill, that rough push,
Mm-hmm.
so they're good. Everybody else, now they're I'm even say Rivian. Everybody still needs to campaign, and the only ones who really don't need to are legacy automakers because they're not they're doing what they have to do because of the government mandate of transitioning them anyway. They don't really care one way or the other. They're so old they've seen this before. Except this time, it's going to go through. It looks like it's going through. They can't
Well, some
stop
of them
this
don't have
movement.
that luxury like VW. They put out weird concepts that probably will never become what they are, like the ID Buzz per se, where they overpromise something and then
Yeah,
underdeliver with something else.
yeah,
So I I don't think it's necessarily a black and white divided by a single line. I think it's very much a gray area where some companies might benefit from it, others might not. Specifically, what I think of is like Ram, where they put out their concept and then a week later or so, or a month later, put out what it's actually going to be. And that felt like a trip up, in my opinion, for what the 1500 Rev kind of became. Where other things like, um, I guess, yeah, like Canoe or Aptera, it does make a little bit more sense to get it out there because they need to get that attention. Where people know what VW is, they don't know what Canoe or Aptera is, and it takes a YouTuber to kind of highlight it, and or a whole bunch of marketing to try to get into the
Mm.
public's eyes to make them familiarize with what design they're trying to sell you, and to recognize that so that in the future when they're finally getting to market, it's like, oh yeah, that thing, oh, it's a product now, okay, maybe I'll check it out, versus being a little bit more alien to it.
yeah.
That's fair. But do you think, while I agree with the whole, it's kind of a gray area, it depends on where the company is, where would Rivian fall then on the spectrum with the R2? Is now too soon to unveil the R2, or should they get on with it? Like, let's show us what you got, show us your intentions, even if you're not going to deliver it for a while. Does that build hype or cause too much Osborne
I think
Now it's a
they're
complete. Now it's a complete podcast.
goodness. I think they're doing a decent pace or following a decent pace with waiting to announce R2 because it seems like they've made it clear that R2 is going to be built in Georgia. It's going to be built
Hmm.
in this new factory that they are now starting to build up. Where with like Tesla, they announced the Cybertruck, but they didn't really have a place to build it yet. And so they're trying to figure out where, whether it's Oklahoma or Austin or something like that, where to put this thing and where to build it. Where Rivian's thinking, I guess they're learning from the mistakes of Tesla per se. So I think for them, they're following a decent tempo for this march that is getting new EVs to consumers, or at least to the production line.
Hmm.
I would say
Yeah.
your ideal situation is you start pushing R2 when you're done with the R1 platform. You know, like we are
Hmm.
moving on from this. We are now in the next stages of our company's history.
What do you mean by done, Randy? Like done producing it, or done adding new features to it, or
I would assume he meant like when all the trims are out, like the standard range,
Yes. Yeah.
dual motors,
okay.
the max pack,
when
all those are launched.
yes, when they've met their goal with the R1 platform and having everything serve its purpose there, then it's like, okay, now that this machine is up and running and we got things going, while that's been happening, we've been working on this, and now we're going to start allocating all our attention on getting this up and going and online out there for everybody. And you know, a part of me, this actually goes back to when we talked about Tesla. Like, when should the Model S and X be killed off? When should it die? When should we say this served its purpose to make the more affordable ones and move that? Ideally, for me, I would have started coming back on the Model S and X a long time ago and just take all those cool interior features, whether it's the ventilated seats or if you wanted a secondary display, that could have been an upgrade. I would have just brought all that new stuff to the 3 and the Y to include radar. So, uh,
They
from
kind of are
from
with
me,
Highland.
just turn it back on. Just turn it back on. But likewise, I when it's time for Rivian, in the context of Rivian, uh, when they start going, all all cells are open and we're pushing now through this objective, then no more R1. R1's it's done. It's obsolete. It's null and void. You still get service. People who are customers of them still have warranties and services and maintenance. So they're not just making any more new ones. Let it be
Hmm.
the iPhone 11 in today's
I was
time
gonna
frame.
say you're
It still
making it
gets.
sound like a cell phone production line rather than a car
I kind of
production
like
line.
the streamlined simplicity of something like that, and I know I'm oversimplifying it, but that's because I would like to see it as simplified as possible. As soon as a new Honda Civic 2024 is announced and they start working, they don't make 2023 Honda Civics anymore. They're now it's a 2024. I wouldn't want something that's so calendar set as like, okay, cut off as mid-year and now it's the 24 line and do that. Like, that's too arbitrary. Like, when you have an actual platform to push and it's done, then I kind of like that whole idea of just severing it. We're done with this, and now everything is going into the newer model. And if you want all
I
this
get
cool
that, but
new
that's
tech,
still called a Honda Civic, and it still operates on the same engineering and all that,
well, whether
or
we
at
say
least a lot of the same engineering
R1T
concepts.
or R1S and R2T or R2S, it's still a truck or a sedan or an SUV. So,
Yeah, but a 2005 Honda Civic versus a 2012 Honda Civic, there's not going to be too many differences per se. That like,
have you
yeah, there's going to be
seen
some
a
exterior
2005 Honda
differences and some
Civic?
interior
It
differences. What I'm
there are
getting at is
differences.
that it's still called a Honda Civic, and it's still in the spirit of that family that is the Honda Civic. Where an R1 versus an R2 are two different products. It's like saying like an 11 Pro iPhone versus an iPad, in my opinion, or like a Mini. is actually a lot more appropriate, like an iPhone Mini. Those are two different things. Like they're in the same family per se, being a vehicle or device that gets some thing done, but like in terms of form factor and utilities, completely different products.
I would disagree.
I can see the point on. Yeah. Well, I mean, I can see where both of you are coming from a point of they're different product lines, different categories that'll set different prices, but the caveat to that is I don't know if the R1 platform will really ever be profitable, which is why it may not necessarily make sense to keep it around um, indefinitely, especially if R2 ends up replacing a lot of the, if they overlap too much. I don't, because with honestly how they're branding it, it's kind of hard to tell exactly is this meant to be a whole separate category, or does this kind of replace the need? Like, how many people are going to want an R1S if there's an R2S that covers 80%, 90%? It's probably the same debate Tesla's having right now with S and X versus 3 and Y. They're probably
Mm-hmm.
still thinking like, now we're giving the 3 a lot of these features anyway. So I agree there's separate categories of like different product line of car, but I also think for the good of the company, they might want to consider skimming down on how much money their loss leaders basically currently losing 30 grand per R1 vehicle.
I wouldn't say leaders, but they are still net negative
Yeah,
compared to some
I don't
others that
know.
we've talked about in this podcast.
I don't know if they could turn that around and justify it like Tesla has found a way to justify the S and X. I think the margins on those are pretty good. I don't know if the R1 platform will ever have decent enough margins to, especially if the R2 comes around. That's going to be an expensive ramp up process now that they start construction on the Georgia plant and they're ramping up. That's going to be very expensive. And do you keep selling your vehicles that are not profitable at that point? Maybe not. I
I
don't
think a
know.
good scope
Maybe
to
they
look
skim
through
down.
is that the product doesn't stay the same all the time, like which what with what Randy highlighted is that there's always going to be some improvements and all that. And we see that with Tesla. It's always every day. There's some new component that they're working on that's going to be improved in next week's model, or maybe not next week's, but in 6 months. I think the same case is going to be for the R1 products, being the R1S and R1T, where it sounds like from the many interviews that the Monroe and Associates guys have had with them is that they're always, or Rivian's always improving and trying to kind of stay on that same level as Tesla with it's not just model years. We're going to be trying to increase efficiency on building this product and decrease the cost of it. So I don't think it's just cut and dry as it's always going to be not profitable as a product. I think it can obviously get there, kind of like with what happened with the S and X. I'm sure that those weren't profitable at first, and now they are. We know that this new the Plaid product line, and I guess that year of it has been a better net positive for Tesla when they build them. They're not losing as much money or at all per se than they have in the past. And I think the same can be said about the R1S and the R1T.
I hope so. They are very different from each other, both in their like complexities and their market segment.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll it'll be interesting to see if they can justify both. But
They could,
I don't know.
or
Desperate
they could cut
times.
costs. It
Desperate
could be
times.
either or. It depends on whether they think it's worth it or what I guess their sales numbers are for one or the other. Of course, there's going to be a boost in sales for the R2 because it's supposed to be a more affordable product than the R1s.
Hmm.
But there's still going to be people who want that, kind of like how there's still people that want the S and X from Tesla.
Yeah. Depends, I guess. They'll
Like you
take
said,
out
Drew,
that flashlight.
you said that your favorite thing about, or was it, if you had the money or the opportunity, you would get an X, just for the fact that you can have that much room in there, and that the doors are cool, and many other factors on the X that you've spoken about in the past are
Yeah,
alluring to
there's a
you.
lot of differences there. I'd be curious what the differences are going to be between the R2 and R1.
Mm-hmm.
I partly wonder if that's why Rivian's not unveiling too much, is because I'm not really sure what else they can take out at this point. They can slim down on the interior complexities, I guess, but they've already got dual motor on the R1. I'm sure R2 will probably be dual motor, and um, they both will have roof rack designs. Probably will both have frunks. Probably both have powered lift gates. So I'm trying to figure out what the R1s can offer, other than maybe quad motor just becomes the standard. Maybe, I don't know. That'll
There's a
be
lot of
tough.
things that are shared with the S and 3 and the X and the Y, in which they found a way to differentiate the products enough to where there's a whole bunch of people clamoring towards the Y, but the X still exists and still has a market segment. I think the same will happen with Rivian, where they'll still find a way to carve out a nice delineation between their products to where it makes sense to keep them both on, just so that way that they're not fully reliant on one product line.
We'll see. Yeah, they might be. For a while there, I know Tesla was basically living off of the Model 3. They still basically are with the Y, just being a larger variant of it. But I don't think the S and X at any point solely got them to profitability. They didn't start getting into the green until the 3 came around, which is probably what's going to happen with Rivian
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
on their 2. But they've got lots of cash. They'll take out the Bluetooth speaker. That'll instantly save
As long as they don't do
tens of
anything
thousands.
like trivial, as like what makes the R1 platform different is they had exclusive colors, exterior and interior. That'll irritate me because it's such a
Ultra red.
it's a cheap tactic toy. You know, oh no, but this one is, here's your compass yellow and here's your forest green, and then like, and the other one's just black, white, red, and blue. Like, no, that will piss me off because they're not being sincere about
Mm-hmm.
what's separating them. They're forcing a visual element to drive that, and if that's the case, then I think the platform as a whole, I think it would just suck. Like, all right, then you're not really you're not taking yourself seriously. The whole thing sucks. That doesn't sell you. That doesn't sell you. It's the most common color I think is what, black and white anyway. So it's like, don't make exclusive colors. I don't like it when Ford does that, or really anybody does that. I get the whole like, oh, so it's, it's luxury and more. I don't.
They might do it.
I think they
I
will,
suggested
because
it
that's what they
already.
said on Instagram, is that for the R2 platform, there's going to be specific colors that are going to go with it versus the R1 platform.
Oh,
They already said it on
just-
Instagram, so it's already. I'm thinking that's already
it's
done set.
confirmed.
It's straight from the CEO's mouth and an engineer right next to him
Are you
talking
saying
about
exclusive
colors.
as in like new colors being added?
New colors being added is what they said. There's going to be some new colors coming with the R2 platform that are going to be exclusive for it.
I'm saying the inverted. I'm saying they take away colors because the R2 platform is supposed to be cheaper. And so part of
I
it
think
being
there's going to be
cheaper-
some shared colors with the R1 platform and the R2 platform, but I think there's still going to be some exclusive colors for the R2 platform.
Yeah, that's not
because-
what I'm referring to then. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
It's like
I
it's
getcha.
like if we get the $25,000 Model 3 variant, but it only comes in black or white and that's it. There's no space gray, there's no red, there's no blue. Then I'd be like, okay, this is kind of dumb. How much are you really saving on that? That, to me, that's not
Oh, I agree.
why it should be like that. But if there's proprietary colors or exclusive colors about, hey, to differentiate, here's this new model, no different than purple iPhone 14 Pro, to tell you that's a 14 Pro, or natural titanium for 15, like that's a little bit different for that set. But to take away colors, to put that behind a paywall because the last model was more expensive, I feel it's just kind of cheap. That's all I'm saying. But
Sure.
I'm not
Might
that
come
invested
in
into
Lucid
it.
Brown.
Lucid Brown.
Lucid Truck Brown. That's the new exclusive color.
I'm totally. If it has brown, I will support that product from its inception to when it's on the road and when it's. I mean, my fascination with Compass Yellow on the Rivians. I always thought that's a really cool color.
That's totally a Rivian colored name they would come up with too. Clay.
Clay brown.
This is clay brown.
I think more
I would call
like,
it number 1 yellow, number 2 brown. That's what I call mine.
I think earthenware brown or earthenware red, because then it denotes that there are some
Leather.
hints of red in there. But
I
The
call that number
entire
3.
outside is just leather.
yeah, I don't think they're
Screw
going
that.
to strip colors for Rivian, Randy. I don't think they're going to strip colors for the R2 platform compared to the R1. I think it's just going to have its own different set of colors. Some might be shared, but others are
Yeah,
going to be
that's fine.
exclusive for R2, and which
That's fine.
makes
I
sense
just
to
don't
me
want.
because it's a whole different plant that they're building it at, and also they want to market this to as many people as possible, and they've already shown that they're willing to be adventurous with their choices.
Yeah. No, I'm
So
okay with that. I'm just jaded that Tesla had a green car, Model S at one point, and then got rid of it for the Model
mhm.
3, and then green never came back. Silver
Neither
came
did
back.
brown, dolphin blue,
Silver
or
came back, but
the brown that they had as well.
Kind
I
of.
remember the brown
There's a
and
whole
the
bunch of
the, the
colors that
beige.
were.
Yeah, that was fun
Mhm.
times, man. And like, it didn't cost you that much. It's okay. It's
If you
fine.
want to get into it more, the Roadsters had even more colors. They had an
You should just
orange.
not have paint. Do it Cybertruck or Aptera style.
Yeah.
If
Keep it
there's a few concepts out
bare
there of
bones.
like was it a cyber sedan that looked pretty cool to me. It was like a squared off, but also like a Model
Oh,
3 looking thing.
Heck
Something
yeah.
like that I'd be a fan of.
Yeah.
Me too. All right. We'll catch next week. We'll have Gravity unveiling and all that jazz. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week. Bye bye.